I'd rather you give me the blueprint to make that $100
Yes.
versus just giving me $100 and responsibility for when things don't go well. Because if you don't know yourself, you're basically walking in this world like a rat in a maze.
Major Williams, man, welcome to the Man of War podcast, brother. It's an honor to have you on here.
No, it's great to be on. I greatly appreciate it. I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. All right, so let's talk about this real quick, man. You were telling me, I was laughing because you look so freaking young, man. Not that your age's not young, but you look damn good, man. So I congratulate you on that.
I know when you have like three boys the way I do, you got to stay in shape, man, because these kids are super active and just running all over the place. But I appreciate you saying that because at some point I'm be able to share this clip with my older son because I hear old man every single day walking through the house. So I need them to know that the outside world doesn't think the exact same thing. So
Yeah, I love that, man. I love that. All right, so for those who don't know you, can you just let us know who you are a little bit?
Sure. Originally from Dallas, Texas. I've been living in California for over 25 years. I came out here on a visit. On the third day, I met a girl and I decided to never go back to Texas. In college, I went to Louisiana Tech University, played sports, football, and basketball. Had aspirations to go pro. When I didn't make pro, I actually came out to California around 2001 to kind of lick my wounds. I was a little depressed. So I didn't want to ultimately go right back to Dallas because everyone would be asking those questions. And I had a love for music always, singing in church choir, singing in choir in high school, and then getting into hip hop music as well. And so I came up here with a friend like 2001. And on the third day, as I mentioned, I met a girl at Foot Locker in Beverly Hills. And the first word I said to the person I'll be with the rest of my life is, "I'm not trying to steal your purse." And it's only because I sat next to her, and the first thing she does was move her purse. I was offended, but to her defense, I had braids and pants were sagging. I'm 23 years old, and probably not looking as pleasant as I do now to her. Um, but from there on, just got fully immersed in trying to figure out what's next. Dabbled in entertainment. I've done national commercials. I've worked with artists like Jamie Foxx, was signed to his music label, but then transcended to executive level, started helping with music, started helping with movies and different scripts, and then got into the fashion world. So I've had many different layers up until the last 8 years. I've been fully indebted to my nonprofit, Major Kicks for Kids, and also from a political realm as well. Ran for mayor of Pasadena back in 2020. I got the most votes ever for a first time candidate. And most recently in 2022, I ran for governor of California, which is the fifth largest, economy in the nation, and did something that a lot of people didn't think I can do. Although I didn't win, I became the 10th largest vote getter out of 41 candidates during that election. But since then, the next chapter after that is just rebuilding, rebranding, created a brand called Majorvation, created a book as well called Majorvation, Unleashing Your Inner Drive for Success, that has been downloaded over 300,000 times over the last year and a half. And we just re-released a deluxe version of that. And my heart and passion is set on my family, my nonprofit, which is a faith-based nonprofit that's called Major Kicks for Kids. And we give away over 1,000 pair of sneakers every single year to kids in need. And we do statewide shoe drives and give those shoes to programs with homeless veterans. And so from there, just public speaking and just trying to get the word out as much as possible, which is why I'm always grateful and thankful to get on a platform like yours to kind of share some of the initiatives that we are involved in.
I love that, man. So you are a guy that gives back, and that is very powerful. I wish that other men could kind of follow suit. We live in a society nowadays where everyone is about, or I should not say everyone, most men are out there about me. But when you give back with meaning and definitely with intention, like you are, I definitely tip my hat to you. So, talk to me a little bit about, nowadays, let's dive into California. Okay. And I have friends that live there. They've seen California go from a beautiful place to live to a place where it saddens me. And I think that it saddens a lot of people that were living there 15, 20 years ago, 30, 40, 50 years ago. What's happening? What has happened in California?
Well, it starts with leadership. When you have leadership with a certain set of ideals and also lack of experience, it's hard for them to see the blind spots because they don't have experience. One of the things that I kind of champion in regards to my message when I was running for governor is that the season of the career employees has to stop when it comes to representatives for our state. And what I mean by that is if you have someone who has always been a worker, they don't know how to think creatively in this new bold world that we're living in. That's why entrepreneurs, that's why business owners have the most success in those roles because they have the ability to adapt, they have the ability to work well with others, they have the ability to negotiate. They have the ability to be creative in their response to a solution that should be easily resolved, especially having the melting pot of experience individuals that we have here in our state. So it starts with leadership and accountability. And from there, everything else breaks apart, which is why you see the homeless crisis that we have. It's not that we don't lack resources. We've had 25 plus billions of dollars that has been poured into this over the last 5 years, yet that number has gone up. It's because of leadership. If a leadership builds a bridge to a certain behavior, then guess what? That bridge is going to continue to invite that behavior into our state, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so if you don't have a strong stance on that, that's what's going to happen even at the border. So we can see the two dynamics on even on a national level. You can see the two dynamics of what leadership truly looks like in regards to how the tone is set. And the tone in California is extremely off. And a lot of people are united in the F word, is what I always say. And the F word is truly frustration. So rising homelessness, rising crime, the highest taxes, it should be a utopia. We shouldn't have income tax. And we should have better leaders that are more creative and business minded running the show. At least give us a decade so we can reset and get things back on a better level.
But see, this is the problem. Okay. We can talk about leadership all day long and what they're doing, and I get it 100%. You have leaders in positions that, in reality, probably shouldn't be there. How do people vote for them? Because in the end, it's like, we have leaders in positions year in, year out, year in, year out. You see what the destruction, what they're bringing to the house, and they keep on being voted in. I mean, where do you see that? Where do you think that the problem is here?
I think the problem, there's two problems. One of them, when it comes to the same type of individual who's been voted in, is because the voters in itself is what I realized. I spent a good amount of money traveling the entire state. And so when you do that, you have an opportunity to have those on the porch conversations, those local park conversations, those coffee shop, cafe
Mm-hmm.
conversations, and you get a real understanding of where people's minds truly are. Um, because so much is happening, people are distracted. So they're taking in micro bits of information and they're making broader decisions in regards to what they're doing. Just like someone voting for a single issue, they vote for you because a single issue, no matter everything else, but just for a single
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
issue, because
Right.
people are so distracted these days. And so the other aspect of it is why does it keep happening? Is because they have opponents and other candidates that do not know how to connect effectively or know how to share a message compelling enough to where it resonates with the voter. You have to be able to educate, you have to be able to excite, ignite, and activate those voters, which is something we were able to do. We were an anomaly, and I think I credit it to my experience as a music artist, selling CDs out the trunk, going corner to corner, and
Mm-hmm.
just being personable and not being afraid of people.
Sure.
So that's one of the main reasons why they keep getting voted in is because they do the least work, but they speak to a certain issue, and then they were able to get over versus having a candidate that's strong enough to derail them and have a great compelling story and educate them. It's not happening on a broader scale here in California.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense, a lot of sense. I also think maybe to add to that is voters they need to be taught how to vote. It's not just voting for, like you said, one issue. Maybe voters need to be taught. There needs to be classes on, look, you know, when you're voting for someone, we get it that there's certain things that you're going to be emotional about, but you have to kind of open up your eyes to the broader things. I also think 100% with what you said, like competition sometimes is not very good. If you can't strike up ideas and resonate with people, I'm sorry, but you're not going to get the votes. And I get it.
Yeah.
So that's those are great words.
No, absolutely. I mean, because it comes down to like I've seen guys that are really smart. They're sharp as a whip, right? But when they're out in public or if they're at the podium and they're speaking, their conversation is just extremely flat. They have no charisma, they have no personality,
Yeah.
and they don't seem approachable. So as so many little proponents that, kind of sets them back. And it's sad because I speak to that all the time. I was like, you have to be intentional about wanting to get better. I've
Hmm.
studied all the greats. I put in that intentional work for the last 8 years to become a better communicator, to become a better networker, to become more personable. Although I had some of those genuine characteristics, but even having those things, that's raw talent. But can you truly intentional work on your skill set? You have a podcast, right? It's one thing to get on here and just talk to guests, but to be great at it and to truly grow it and engage it and have people excited about what you do, that takes genuine intention and effort. And those ones who understand that are the ones who are successful, like yourself with this podcast.
Yeah, no doubt. Communication, and this is something. It's cool you say that because I retired from law enforcement almost 5 years ago. Most of my career was narcotics undercover, part of SWAT teams, and it was an amazing career. And I go back in time, and I'm like, wow, I can't believe that I had that powerful career. And I needed to get out of my shell, especially when I started to do podcasts, right? Interviews, because my whole life had been very, very private, very locked in. So I took in this way of kind of rewired my brain and then said, you know what? I need to start reading more about communication, right? Communicating effectively, being articulate. That changed me dynamically. And I believe that once you get to a level where you can convey your thoughts in an articulate manner, you've just leveled up your life. Those
No,
are my
it's
thoughts,
an
man.
absolute game. No, it's an absolute game changer. I shared a story recently on social media. I shared it probably last year, and I reshared it here recently. Is because I was I was I was privy enough to be invited to a mastermind in Beverly Hills, um, and the ticket for that was $55,000. Obviously, I'm not paying $55,000, but every person that was there paid $55,000 to get there. And what I quickly realized is that I understood why they did it. It wasn't really about the speakers. You can find some of that stuff on YouTube. You can find some of that stuff in the box, but it's the experience of those
Yes.
stories. Even further from that, the downtime, the lounge times, and making those new friendships, making those new relationships, and then you realize everyone in here paid $55,000, so they have a certain level of success in life. And I looked around, there was multimillionaires all over the place, and that is the value. So when people were, coming at me on social media, it was like, I would never pay $55,000 for something. That's crazy. Well, you don't understand the end goal, because some of those same people have made millions together now because they were in that actual room and fostered those relationships.
That is so powerful. And I believe in with everything in my soul that the people that you get around, if you can sit in the table, I've said this many times. I've paid hundreds of thousands for mentors over the last 7 or 8 years of my life, and I can say without a doubt that they have made me millions of dollars just in conversation, just in being able to sit down on the same table in the same room, to have access to them. And you're right. People don't value that. Your $55,000 mastermind, they're like, what am I getting from it? But when you go in with that kind of mindset, you're not going to get anything. But when you go in with the mindset of, sit down, ask questions, be involved, watch with your eyes, takeaways, that's as powerful as you can get. But a lot of people will say, well, I don't need to pay that. I don't need to pay this. I can just go on YouTube and get this free learning lesson and get that free learning lesson. I think we need to do a better job in society at knowing what true value is. I think people just live lives from a perspective of something free is as equally as valuable as something that you have to pay. And in my mind, it's never been like that. I don't know if you would agree with that, but you knowledge that is that you go into a group and you have to, lay out whatever, 500, 1,000, 1,500, $55,000 to be part of something. A lot of people look at it, well, I'm just going to be paid to be friends with that guy, but no, you got to go in deeper. It's about the room that you are in. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
No, that's true. So a few beneficial nuggets came from that situation. One of them, after I explained it in the way that I explained it to my audience, so many people that were against it had an aha moment during that particular live,
Yeah.
because, like you said, they're going and it's like, I don't want to pay $55,000 to be somebody's friend or to go and get
Mm-hmm.
information that I can read in a
Mm-hmm.
book or see on YouTube.
Right.
But once you're able to, you know, curate the right message to them and make them understand where the value is, then the
Yeah.
aha moment comes. Because even for me, I foster relationships and partnerships just from being in that particular room, right? And so if you're not prepared for that beforehand, then you shouldn't pay $55,000 to
Yeah.
go into that room.
Yeah.
And so I
Yeah.
give
Yeah.
them both spectrums of it so they can understand. And this is why it's important to self-develop yourself and to read more and also to have the confidence. So even if you're reading more, you have to work on yourself. Walking in and talking to somebody that you know that's worth $50 million and you probably got 20 bucks in your pocket or 10,000 in the bank, it takes a certain amount of confidence. And once you understand how to extract that confidence and be able to exert it in any room that you're in, which is what I was able to do in multiple industries, especially recently in politics, always exist and add value and make yourself uniquely stand out.
Yeah.
So back to your point, I always believe in, I rather you give me the blueprint to make that $100
Yes.
versus just giving me $100.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, me being a man, I want to be able to take that knowledge and not only make the money, but pass it on to my sons and my family
Sure.
members as well. That's
Sure.
where the value is.
Sure. Let's talk about, and I know that you have a lot of good values because I've watched some of your videos and I love that, principles of families and values, being a good father, a good husband. Before we get into that, you know, one of the things that I see people, there's two sides to the fence here. There's people who just live, the material world, right? Everything is material, 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 material. And then there's the other side of the world or the side of the house where, those people hate on people who have material things, right? So it's those who have the material things and those who hate on people who have the material things. And look, I can see it from both perspectives, but I say several stories, right? I'm a big car guy, have a couple Lamborghinis, and I'm in that world. And it's people don't quite understand that having a Lamborghini or I'm a big watch guy and having those things that I enjoy in my life and I don't identify myself with them. If they swept out of my life, it doesn't matter, man. Like I know who I am. I'm confident. I'm a very highly focused individual of doing the right thing. But we have one life to live, right? Why not enjoy it? I'm going to enjoy it as much as I can. Have a beautiful home, family, all that good stuff. I want to enjoy it. But then you have the outside people look from looking in and they look at that and they say, well, this guy has this and he's attached to material things. He's constantly, driving his car and here and there. And then you have the other side of the house, which is the material people that only judge you based on these material things. Okay. So these two levels in society, there's a happy medium in there, and I believe with everything in me that when a guy like you comes around and you are highly focused, you have learned how to be the best version of yourself, you're in that process constantly growing. You seem like the kind of guy that for the most part, man, you absorb a lot, and then you learn from it. And it just seems like there is this huge detachment of people not realizing that sometimes in life, just because, I mean, I see your watch, first thing I see, I'm a watch lover, like I love watches. I mean, you know, it's not so much that you're flaunting or guys flaunt their watches, but sometimes it's a sign of success for them, right? So, kind of redirecting this question to you is, the weak side of society, okay, and what I mean by that is the people who just envy and are jealous of all your material possessions, okay? You seem like you can speak well and articulate well. What would you say to that group? Okay, say, hey man, like, and bring them back to not being jealous and envious, and instead maybe letting it inspire them to reach a certain goal at some time in their lives.
I think a great story that I most recently came across, and it comes from the book Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill.
Mm,
And in
love
the
that
audio
book, man.
version, Sharon Lecter,
Mhm.
Sharon Lecter is doing she's doing commentary within the book as well. And Sharon Lecter said a lot of people were giving pushback in regards to the framework of how he wrote the book, in regards to did he really interview the devil. And at the end of the day, her her assessment of it matches what I would say as well. It really doesn't matter if he truly was talking to the devil. Did the message resonate? Was it good value? Was it great information that you could apply and use to your life? And so for the side that is weak, okay, yes, you may see a watch or you may see a card, but was the information valuable, and was it something that you could use in real time that could personally help you? Not only you, but can it help your family? Not only your family, but can it help your environment or your entire situation? That
Yes.
is where the focus should be. And that comes down to a conversation like this, being able to be calm, being able to break it down, put it in story form, and give it context. So hopefully a good percentage of those people, it's going to resonate with them. And so we can create those aha moments by making that reference, by being calm, by not shaming or judging, but say, hey, I hear you, I listen, I'm listening to you, but what about this approach? What about looking at it from this perspective, right? Was it good for you? Did you understand it? What about it that didn't resonate with you? We can dive into that. But so I would use the same theory that Sharon Lecter used when people were giving pushback in regards to if he spoke to the devil or not.
Yeah, good point, without a doubt. It's obviously, did they resonate? Was there any value taken from that to help them change? So, talk to me about families nowadays. I mean, you live in an area where, oh, I mean, it's tough. Or I don't know if the family unit is that popular. Especially California now. We live in a little bit more conservative state here in state of Florida, but you've been married for quite a while. You have kids. Um, you seem like you're a very devoted husband. What have you done in your relationship and through the years to solidify that type of man that you are today?
I believe that God has paired me with a very patient partner. I'm a man with I'm a man has made mistakes in the past, but I think the foundation of how we've always connected through communication has saved us, because I wasn't afraid to share those vulnerabilities in the areas that I needed to work on. I was able to work on those areas and put in the effort to do so. But we were intentional about it. I found the right partner that just kind of helped me throughout the process, and I had to grow. So for me, I didn't. I tell people this all the time. I didn't dream because of the environment that I grew up in Dallas, Texas. I grew up in the projects, one of the biggest goals I had in high school was how many girls that we were going to have sex with, right? So the mindset was messed up. It wasn't about how successful in college.
Yeah.
Like I was around a very toxic situation. I grew up in a single parent household. I didn't have the format on how to be a man, but thank goodness I had certain attributes that were seeds planted in me early on between 10 and 17 years old, to where I knew about entrepreneurship, to where I saw other men working and hustling out there, not in a negative way. I used to sell car incense. I used to cut yards for between 11 to 14 years old. We didn't call it entrepreneurism back then. We just called it whatever the job was, right?
Mhm.
And so I had those elements placed in me. And so it took me a while. I consider myself a late bloomer. I tell my older son that all the time. And he was like, well, what does that mean? It's because some of the things that you're learning now, son, the way that I'm parenting you, I
Yeah.
wish I would have had that type of foundation and direction, because we live with purpose in this house. We have weekly family meetings. We pray together. We do Bible study together, and we are intentional about our plans. My son, and I get back to my original answer, but my son, because of this type of environment that we've created, all of them, but my oldest specifically, he created a brand called Toji, and it's an acronym for the only superstar is Jesus. And the great thing about the introduction to it, he only wanted to do hats in the beginning and evolve into like t-shirts and hats, right? I mean, t-shirts and shorts. The three hats, he has a black one, a red one, and a green one. And each one of them have a meaning. And he also prays over every single package before it goes out to every customer. And I asked him, why do
Wow.
you do that? He says, because I want to make sure that they get a little extra. I want to make sure that they're covered. And so my thinking is, why I see that way. But when I look at the foundation that we've built, I understand why he thinks that way. If you ever get a chance to meet my son and just put him on the spot and say, tell me 5 things you know about yourself, all three of them in unison, they're going to say, I'm smart, I'm loved, I'm special, I'm strong, and powerful. There's a whole routine to it. They've been hearing this
Mhm.
from the womb, right?
Mhm.
And so for me, I didn't have those things. And I got very, very blessed with the right person that had a great family. We had a great family support that helped nurture us. I was 23, she was 20, right? So during that time, a lot of people, when you mess up, you're out of there. Like that was just like the formula for that. Um, but it took time. But it took a lot of education, and it took a lot of great mentors along the journey that was placed in my life. And we are intentional. We're as tight as as anybody, and we've created something pretty special to where we mentor other families now.
Oh wow. That's amazing. Are you? I mean, so tell me a little bit about your background. Like you went to college, okay? You played some football there. Were you always focused on being an entrepreneur or growing, or did that just hit you one day and you said, "Man, I have to make a life change at some point"?
I remember one day I was walking in the middle of the street of our community. I was walking to the basketball court and I was dribbling the basketball. As I'm looking around, I'm looking at the environment. And I remember saying this. I was 13 years old, and it felt bad to say it at that time, but there was a bigger meaning to why I was saying it. I just said to myself, I don't belong here. I always felt like I didn't belong in that type of environment. All the houses were dilapidated, the streets were crazy, crime, loudness, rudeness, toxic mentalities. And a good friend of mine, well, a coach of mine, gave me an opportunity of a lifetime that summer by the name of Roderick Howard. He took me and a couple of my buddies to Denver, Colorado. And that particular camp was called FCA, Fellowship of Christian Athletes. It's my first time participating in it. We get there, we think we're gonna like have this great basketball tournament, and we're gonna win every single game because me and my boys are really good. As soon as we get off the bus, they split us all up, so none of us are on the same team.
Hmm.
So, so we go into this cabin, and it's this white guy with red hair, this Asian kid, and this Latino kid. The United Nations in this room, right? So I'm thinking to myself, we're gonna lose every single game. This is gonna be a disaster.
Yeah.
So, but fast forward, we end up having the best time ever. Made some really great friends and great connections. learned different perspectives. The kid named Alex with the red hair kept a journal. My mind is blown. I was like, who keeps a journal? Like, what is a journal for? Next summer, I start a journal, you
That's
know.
funny.
But like I said, I never knew, I never had a plan, to be honest with you. I just knew I wanted to get out. And the only way to get out at that particular time, I felt like was college. And so the first year, due to grades, I went to a junior college, and it was a really great junior college. It was called Trinity Valley Community College. It was like a hour away from Dallas. The reason why I went there is because NBA greats have been there. Nick Van Exel and also Sean Kemp went to this college. So I was like, okay, I can go there, foster my skills, and I could possibly still make it to the pros. And so after I left there, I went to Louisiana Tech. I walked on the basketball court. I ended up having a heart murmur, so I never played one game, never got on the field for the football field because of that medical injury, medical condition. And then a year after that, trained and went to a sports agent trying to go pro. That didn't work out, which made me end up, in California. So, like I said, I had a very uh, vast background in a lot of different areas, for sure.
You're a man of faith, and you've been married for quite some time, as I stated a little bit ago. Has this type of peace that you're so locked in with your family helped you be a stronger man?
Yes, it has been because I pull inspiration from my family, and then I'm also very aware of how my sons are looking up to me or just even looking at me. My kids are very involved. Even when I was on my political campaign, my sons were with me the entire time. There's this iconic photo that we have it blown up where I was speaking in front of hundreds of people, and my son that's 6 now, he was 2 or 3 at the time, and somehow he got away from my wife, and he came and stood right next to me at this big
Uh,
fundraiser while I was talking, and he's just standing there, and I didn't even notice him because I was so focused and I was
yeah.
so locked in. And then I just happened to look down. I'm like, I had no idea my son was
Wow.
standing right here next to me the
Surprise.
entire time, but he wanted to go where he felt safe.
Yeah.
And that's what that was about. That's how I received that. So the whole time I didn't shush him off. I didn't tell him to go, and I didn't break rank. So he was able to see me keep my confidence, keep my focus, and deliver a powerful message where I got a standing ovation. That is a historical moment that he will never forget. That's a historical moment that my sons will never forget. And that is something that my wife was able to look at and was like, boy, you good, right? So all types of pats on the back when it comes to that. So I pride myself in getting better because I know that I've actually
Yeah.
intentionally done the work. Like I wasn't in this place. I truly was a victim. I truly believe it was your fault because I wasn't successful. I had that same type of mentality. But once I realized that, I really, really dug deep to find ways to reprogram and unlearn so many bad habits and perspectives that to the point where we don't even gossip in my house. Like it's not allowed. Like I don't care about it. If it's not fruitful, if it's not something that's adding to us, we don't have time for that. We just got to talk about what our plans are positively and move forward in life and give and be of service in whatever way that we can.
Hmm.
I know that you mentioned earlier in regards to you love the fact that when men give back and a lot of men don't do that. It's for service and community work and philanthropy. Well, I'm only a byproduct of that because of my mother, Anita Williams. When I was 12, 13, 14 years old in middle school, I would wake up in the morning, get ready to go to school, and there would be homeless people camped out in our living room, like literally knocked out, sleeping. I don't know who these people were, but my mom had a knack for if it was super cold or raining, people that she didn't know, she would let sleep in her living room. As a selfish 12, 13, 14-year-old, I'm peed off and I'm upset and complaining.
Hmm.
But years later, I truly understood what that was about. She had so little, but she gave so much, which is why our family in that environment we were was always favored. Somehow, some way, things just worked out for us. So that's how I receive it.
Awesome. So you've been married almost 20 years. What are a couple of things that you can maybe point out that have helped you lead your household?
I think always showing up, and I think that being willing to have tough conversations and being willing to admit when I'm wrong and being willing to admit that I can get better in certain areas and just figuring out ways to communicate better with love. Like, my punishment with my kids is a very stern conversation, but it's in story form.
Hmm.
And I found a way to make things make sense to them because I
Yeah.
let them know what gateways are. So if you're going into the pantry and getting sweets without permission, that is a gateway to thievery. That is a gateway to other behaviors. And so teaching them those micro moments towards the macro moments have been very effective in our household, but I had to learn that concept. I read a book called Fantastic Families. It was an old nondescript book. It's all white with gold letters on it. I bought it for $3.50 at a thrift store like 2 years ago, and it literally blew my mind in regards to the psychology of communicating and um, building great families. It's called Fantastic Families. It's a great read.
Amazing. I'm gonna check that book out. I'm a big reader. Fantastic Families. Very good.
Yes.
All right. So leadership in this day and age. What did you learn? I mean, had to be some unbelievable learning takeaways while you were running for governor. I mean, give me some takeaways, especially on the leadership side that you felt that you got from that time running your campaign.
So I learned many lessons, during that particular time. Some good, some bad. But I was even the bad. I was able to learn some certain takeaways. But more importantly, every single outcome I had control over. And as a leader, it's important to take responsibility for your actions when things go well, and also your responsibility to take full accountability and responsibility for when things don't go well. Some of the things that I learned in regards to my leadership style is making sure that every action that I take has to be accounted for in regards to making sense of the big picture. When you're in politics, you are a polarizing figure. In this new age, everything can be taken out of context. So I'm from the South. Naturally, I have Southern hospitality. I don't care if you're a man or a woman, I have very warm greetings and conversations with anyone. That can't necessarily exist on a higher scale in politics, is what I truly learned, especially when it comes to women. Being someone that's a public figure, there's a lot of attraction to celebrity, which I didn't know politics was like entertainment or celebrities. Long lines of people that just want to get a picture or be able to say that they know you. I didn't get that. I wasn't in politics my entire life. It wasn't an aspiration for me. I didn't know that you can be famous or popular in this particular space. And so there had to be an adjustment. And so from my leadership perspective, is just identifying how not to put myself in lights where my family can look at it a certain type of way, or how the public can view it in a certain type of way. So I started hugging people. I stopped hugging people on pictures or my hand. You can visibly see my hand, out if my hand is around someone, like, so all those different things I had to learn because, and it doesn't happen with ugly people. Let me make a reference to that. Ugly people, it doesn't matter. But if you're attractive, you look good, when people think you look good, it's just so much more into it. Everyone thinks that you're drinking vodka and it's just ice water, right? And
Hmm.
so it's just all these different things that I had to learn how to navigate. But then ultimately, from the maturity aspect of it, it taught me how not to be reactive, and that someone's opinion online isn't the entire world, and that you'll make it to the next day. And so I was able to play it calm and cool the entire time. And even at this particular stage where I'm at now, 2 years removed, I think because I set that standard then, it's allowed me to be received by so many people that I continue to connect with.
Amazing, amazing. That's pretty. Thanks for sharing because that's pretty deep right there. Well, you made a good point there where you have to That's all new for you. I mean, that was your first campaign, right? I mean, going out there and being
Well,
governor.
first gubernatorial. I mean, I ran for mayor, but that was
Yeah,
the first one
for
gubernatorial,
governor.
and
Yeah,
that's
that's at
like
another
that's
level.
night and
Yeah,
day.
yeah, yeah. So, I mean, running and going through this campaign, I imagine that of course, your goal was to win and to do everything you could to make the changes and to. How was your family taking it? I mean, I often wonder how my wife, my kids would take it if I went into politics, because with politics comes a lot of stresses for a family. So how did they support you?
Well, in all honesty, my wife was never a fan of me going to the next level
Hmm.
because even from a local level, she saw how nasty it can be, and I was just
Yeah.
running for mayor.
Yeah.
Um, but regardless, if it's something that I'm doing, she's going to show up. She's going to support me 100%, and that's what she did. But there was a lot of tension at times because we are truly a connected family. We're all we have. We're in California. We don't have family here in California. Her
Hmm.
family's in Florida. My
Hmm.
family's in Texas. So we literally only have each other here. And we're entrepreneurs. So we work from home and we do business together as a family. The
Hmm.
fact that I was gone so much, um, they couldn't make every single day, because of educational, reasons, obviously. Um, it was a strain, but there was a lot of joy that came from it too, because we were able to give back and connect with people and inform and educate people. So we had a lot of great moments. But I would definitely say that it took a toll. My oldest, it kind of impacted him more, especially towards the end when everything ramped up and all the trolls and all the allegations and all the major so bad type of comments were coming in. It's interesting, and people showing up at our house, Instagram live, beating on our door like it's humorous and funny, and
Wow.
not knowing that me being a very aggressive person. My wife basically saved some people's lives one day when they came to our door because my natural reaction is to
I
protect
bet.
myself and my family.
Yeah. I don't
And,
blame you.
and law enforcement had to come. And so all those little things are the things that they could live without. But at the same time, those things do not happen if you're not being effective. There
Hmm.
were 41 candidates. No one else had to deal with that. And I ran for 2 years. I was the first person to announce that I was running for governor out of all the 41 candidates. And I would say at least 90% of every candidate that came into the race
Hmm.
used me as a launch pad for the launching of their campaign.
Wow.
Major
Wow.
so bad, don't vote for him, vote for me, right? And the reason why they did that is because of so much traction, how the social media ran about, and how everyone was talking in favor of something fresh and new. Not that I was the most experienced in politics, because I don't think you have to be experienced in politics to govern and be a representative of our state, especially if you understand leadership and having the right implementation with the teams that you surround yourself with to implement the things and ideals and strategies that you have. So that's a part that they would not be interested in, which is another reason why I'm not running currently right now.
If there was one policy that you could shape the next generation of young men, what would it be?
Hmm. I believe that a high focus policy that focuses on personal development. Personal development is the foundation that gives you the leverage to receive the other good tools that you need in your toolbox
Hmm.
to operate in the world. Because if you don't know yourself, if you're not confident, if you don't have perspective, if you don't have a roadmap, you're basically walking in this world,
Hmm.
and this world can be a maze, right? Just like a rat in a maze. This world can be a maze if you don't have the foundational tools and awareness on how to navigate the world. So I would say some kind of policy that, you know, really pushes and stand behind personal development for young men.
I love that. I love that. Now you have an organization that's regarding children, right? It's uh, Kicks for Kids. What
Yeah,
is what is
major kids for
Major
kids.
Kids for Kids? What is that about?
So it's a 501c nonprofit. It started some years ago, over 5 years ago. Basically, prior to that, as I mentioned, I worked really closely with Jamie Foxx, and Jamie would get all of these tennis shoes. And when they would send him shoes, they would send him like two or three of the same pair of sneakers. So I would literally just ask him to go shopping in his closet. And over the years, I probably collected over 2,000, 3,000 pair of sneakers beyond the ones that I
Wow.
bought, but also the ones that I collected as well from him.
Wow.
And my wife looked at me one day and she's like, "You got to do something about this. This is just too much." And so I just started giving them away to people on the streets, and I used to record myself doing it. And a buddy of mine by the name of Daryl Borkin, he was ex NFL player for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's best friends with Jerome Bettis. He hit me up one day. He was like, "Man, that's so cool that you're doing that. You should start a nonprofit." And that's kind of how that whole situation started. But I quickly found out that kids don't wear size 12s and size
Wow.
13s.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we had to pivot, and I started doing garage sales. And with the funds from the garage sales, we would go and buy sneakers for kids in need. And early on, when I moved to California, for 2.5 years, I used to work for Erickson Mental Health Facilities, which is for kids here in California. So I had that connection with those facilities. So I would just take all the shoes over there. I would get the sizes beforehand, and I just started it from that perspective. But as currently today, we we're very transparent. We raise money, we buy shoes, and we give them away. And we give away over 1,000 pair of sneakers every single year to kids in need. And we do statewide shoe drives for homeless veterans.
I love that. Unbelievable. Good stuff. Good stuff. So, before we get going, give me a couple of things that you would leave for our generation right now, for them to become better individuals, maybe have a stronger foundation at home, maybe even be able to increase or strengthen their leadership skills as human beings.
I would say it's comparable to the quote that they say, "You are what you eat." So when it comes to who you're going to be, it's about who you surround yourself with, which is what you said earlier. That's very important. It's also about the information that you are um, intaking as well. Or you reading, or you caring about your fitness, your appearance, your personal hygiene. Do you care about the way that you're being received in regards to your communication? um, Identifying your strengths and making them stronger, but also identifying your weaknesses and working on those as well. Getting out of the way of your pride and your ego, and not being afraid to ask for help or admit to yourself that you need help, and start putting together small wins that are going to contribute to the major victories that you're going to have later. And then I would say, lastly, as I said earlier, really focus on personal development. And for me, being a believer, I would always refer to the Bible, get in a relationship with God, get in a relationship with the Word, and then just really figuring out um, what works for you, what's going to keep you consistent. Build a program that you can be accountable, but build a realistic program so you're not failing all the time. And then that puts you in a deeper spiral. So build a system around you that is going to see you. I tell my son's biggest victory every day is, making his bed every single morning, right? And he does that consistently. And then he does 100 push-ups and 100 sit-ups every single day. That's his
Oh,
non-negotiable. And that's the thing I want to tell people: create non-negotiables for yourself. I did a clip earlier this morning. I don't know if you saw it. I was talking about how one of the main things that changed me, I had to challenge myself. And in challenging yourself, it's kind of like you have to play a game with yourself psychologically and talk to yourself, self-talk yourself, self-mentor yourself self love yourself, and just be an inner motivator of yourself and have vision on where you would like to see yourself be and work towards that. If they want to drive Ferraris like you, like I want to drive some Ferraris like you, right? But you have to do the work now in order to see the manifestation later and acknowledge that's how it works.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Very powerful. Where can people follow you on social media?
It's very simple. It's at Major Williams on Instagram. It's at Major Williams CA on Twitter. And even on Instagram, if you are interested in a foundational level reading and workshop type of book, Majoravation is available, and that link is in the bio as well. I've also started strategy calls last month, 30 to 60-minute strategy calls. And if anyone is interested in strategy calls, all you have to do is text me personally at 626-623-3753, text 30 or text 60, and we'll get you set up and we'll have a great conversation and brainstorm.
Powerful. Do you have a website?
Yes, it's majorwilliams.com.
Got it. Got it. Major man, thank you so much for being on. I could sit here and talk to you for hours and hours, man. You're a great man. I appreciate you being on.
Thank you so much, and thank you for everything that you're doing.